Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below. Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 5th round of the AOR Hyper Energy Season 17 Formula 3 League on the PC. We're here at Silverstone as the home of motorsport, lays host to the 5th round of the AOR of this 10-round championship. The British Grand Prix is not just the home of motorsport, but also the home of AOR. Silverstone was part of the original World Championship in 1950 and has hosted more than 50 Grand Prix ever since, which is more than any other circuit on the F1 calendar. But the first British Grand Prix ever was held 2 years prior in 1948. Silverstone is built on the site of a World War II airfield, which is reflected on some of the corner names, and at its first Grand Prix in 1948 it attracted a reported 100,000 spectators. 2 years later it got picked for the first race of the inaugural Formula 1 World Championship. If he takes pole at the 2019 British Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton will set the new world record for the most pole positions at his home event. The current record is shared between himself and the legendary Ayrton Senna, who started the Brazilian Grand Prix from pole 6 times. The tyres for this weekend are the soft mediums, and for the first time this whole season, the hard tyres. And we always have the intermediates and full wets if the rain decides to come down, which there's a good likelihood of here at Silverstone. Now for some track records. The fastest pole time is set by Marcel Kiefer with a 1:26.1, and the fastest race time is set by the F1 Esports World Champion Brendan Lee with a 39:32.5. Now for a look at the 5.2 km or 3.7 mile long circuit with 18 corners, 8 to the left and 10 to the right, and with 3 DRS zones on the main straight, Wellington and the Hangar Straight, setting the drivers up for action into the Vale chicane, as we see here Beresnay and Sørensen from season 15. Now, before we head into qualifying, we will look at the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. Normally, James will be here to do it, but unfortunately he is sick today and will not be able to do so. But if we look at the Drivers' Championship standings, we have Letzero leading up ahead with 10 points down to Skady, who has just tipped off El Sonia for 3rd place there, and with 17 points up to Skady. Then we have Kimmis in 4th with only 1 point up to El Sonia in 3rd. Then we have Hitson in 5th, Conrad in 6th, Ruthful in 7th, Hoop in 8th, FK Gaming in 9th, and Return rounding off the top 10. Then we have Hassad in 11th, Peter in 12th, Greshu in 13th, Bailey in 14th, JSR in 15th, Lucas De Vries in 16th, Vessel in 17th, Robert in 18th, and Socrates in 19th. Then, looking at the constructor standings, there hasn't been much change since the last Grand Prix. We have still Renault leading the championship with 2 points down to Sauber and a whole 8 points down to Force India. Then we have McLaren in 4th place with 23 points up to Force India in 3rd. Then we have Haas in 5th, Williams in 6th, Mercedes in 7th, Ferrari in 8th, Red Bull in 9th, and Toro Rosso with only 1 point rounds off the Constructors' Championship standings. Now, we unfortunately have some technical difficulties which have kicked me out of the lobby, which is interesting. It looks like I've gotten a new invite. But yes, it looks like the session has had to be restarted, so we'll be waiting for that. Unfortunately, technical difficulties is something we all have to deal with, but it looks like it is under control, and the qualifying session will get underway shortly. But looking at Letzero, who is in the championship lead, he last season started a 6-race DNF straight spree here, so let's hope that doesn't happen again and he can keep in with the last 6 races, including this one, as we are almost halfway in the championship, so that will happen after this race. But it looks like all the drivers are about to be ready, so we can hop into qualifying. But until then, let's have a short break. Now, we are back from that short break, and I am terribly sorry for putting up the Bahrain track image here. I'll just change it immediately now. It has been a hectic start up to this race with a lot of information needed to gather. So I am terribly sorry for making that mistake, but it looks like we will be heading into qualifying now here at Silverstone. So yes, with looking at the drivers here today, we will only have 14 drivers, I believe, since a couple of guys is either sick or is just generally not able to attend. So it'll be a small grid, which can be plenty of excitement because you don't have to worry that much about an undercut from a lot of drivers. So let's hope for some crazy and tight racing at the front and through the whole field. Here's it's a raining qualifying session here at Silverstone, which I did say at the start was that there was a high probability of rain. So this will certainly be a challenge for the drivers, as they will not have the usual aid of DRS, and it's quite slippery as well. So let's hope that no one crashes into the walls and they still can put down some good lap times, as we see. I think that's ozone popping out. I'm sorry, popping out of the pits there. Excuse me if I'm going to cough up at any points during the race or the qualifying. I'm myself suffering from a bit of a cold. But yeah, as the drivers are making their way out on track, we'll be seeing the lap times come round and see what the drivers can produce in these wet conditions. As we saw that Cyril leading the way in the championship standings, he'll certainly be hoping to get a pole position in this race, so he can keep that going at the top, as all the drivers, or almost all the drivers, are making their way out. Looks like they're all choosing the intermediate tyres. It's not wet enough for the full wets, but it'll be interesting to see if the rain decides to fall even more during this qualifying session and give us full wet conditions, which would probably end this session early, because if it begins to rain more, the lap times will just crumble up. That's really not anything that'll benefit you. Yes, we're on board with Greshu going through Maggots and Beckett's, coming out through Chaplin down the Hanger Straight. When he comes onto his qualifying lap, we could well enough do a hot lap on board with him, since we unfortunately didn't have one for this week. You're coming down to Vale, as you also saw in the action zone. There's plenty of opportunity for overtaking, as there are some yellow flags in Sector 1 that could easily be someone that has spun off. But now Greshu comes on the line there and starts his qualifying lap. Let's see what he's able to do, coming through Abbey down to Farm and then into Village, keeping that flat out if it was dry, but he lifts off a small bit, then coming down to the loop and carrying on down to Aintree, which in dry conditions is also flat out, but you can see him just lifting off a slight bit. You can also see that he's not up in fully EOS mode for some of the corners, due to it being quite slippery and you don't want to get full output coming through the corners. Now coming through Luffield, then going down to Woodcut, that small kink that gets you out onto the old start-finish straight, and then down to the normally flat out cops, but it's also giving quite a bit of a lift off there. Then coming into legendary Maggots and Beckett's, going quite fast, as there's unfortunately just a small screen freeze there, as it's just such a fast entry you're coming in with. And then zooming onto the Hanger Straight, the last DRS zone you would normally have on a dry track. And then making his way down to Stove, which is also a really fast corner, almost drifting through there in the wet conditions, coming past the pit lane there, and then again into the Vale complex, as we'll be hoping to see plenty of overtaking through there. Then coming across the line, the first qualifying lap, we'll see what will be. It will be a 1:38.1, and that is a quick hot lap featuring Ozone, as we see El Sunny put a new lap time there, 1:38.5. But it'll be interesting to see what the drivers can produce, as we see Hazard make the new provisional pole time a 1:37.2, as we're seeing more yellow flags, as that could easily be someone just making way for someone else, as Hazard's teammate FK Gaming in the Mercedes sets it on the front row, making it a Mercedes front row lockout currently. But with the racing line drying up just a slight bit, with the drivers suing around, it could be that the times will topple a bit coming the end. That's something we would normally see with the track getting a bit rubbered in, but we will not be seeing that today, as all the rubber is washed away by the water, as the only one I think on the qualifying lap right now is Hooper. Let's see what he can produce coming through Vale, as there's some more yellow flags. That's probably just someone giving room as he comes across the line. What will it be? It'll be a 1:37.4, splitting the two. Actually, no, Condam split the two Mercedes earlier, but Hooper putting up into second place on the front row. Now, all the drivers have been out setting some bank laps, as Alsoni puts in a 1:37.3. But all the drivers out has done a bank lap, except for Hitsonen, that's still in the pit now, gone out on his out lap in the Williams. The only of the Williams drivers here today, but that was only expected when, well, it was not expected only with the Williams, but it was expected that not all the drivers have their teammates today, as we are seeing some of the drivers not being able to attend. But it'll be interesting to see what he can produce for his qualifying lap, because he would be quite liking to put it up there and put it also up there in the points in the race, as he would like to get some good points for the championship. So I would quite imagine that he would like to take the fight all the way to the end. As we can just flick through some of the drivers here going into the pits again, going in to fuel up, maybe change the setups a bit. You'll see here Elsani been out for 2 straight laps, now doing his 3rd straight qualifying lap on the intermediate tyres. Of course, the intermediate tyres are holding longer than, for example, the soft tyres, and the top 10 not having to start on these intermediate tyres that they're using now, not like with the dry conditions, which means that they'll just put it all out in qualifying and don't care about the tyre wear. As we actually see Peter not putting in a lap time either. Missed him down at the bottom, but here we see Hitson coming through Maggots and Beckett. It looks like, no, sorry, that was probably Farm or the first corner, as we see him come out on the Wellington straight, having it almost up in hot lap ERS, putting it up there. Now coming down towards Luffield, about to go on to the old main straight, and then down to Cops, which again, even in the wet, is so high speed and is where many drivers could make up time if they do the setup right, because you'll just be able to put the throttle down just a bit more, especially here in the wet conditions, where it's all about driving the car on the edge. Now coming through Maggots and Beckett, there's a McLaren up ahead. I believe that's off Elsani. And Elsani, if he's not on a qualifying lap, of course will pull to the side, but it doesn't look like it. He's still going flat out for another time. At least didn't look like he was slowing down of any sort. Nope, he's coming into the pits, so that's after 3 straight laps running. And then those intermediate tyres, he finally goes into the pits, maybe to change the setup or to fuel up for another fast run. Then he hits and puts it on provisional pole with a 1:37.1. Fast time from him. You must be really happy with that, but it looks like he's just carrying on for another lap. What can Peter do? It looks like he is not going to be going for a qualifying lap, maybe just for an installation lap to look what his setup was like, but it doesn't look like he was happy with it, because he's pulling into the pits again. He was at least in 0 ERS. So with 8 minutes left, we have Hitson on provisional pole, Hassard running off the front row, and we have El Sonny, the current in 3rd place there. We have Lazzaro in 4th. We have Hooper in 5th currently. Most drivers going in to get new sets of tyres on, as they will be quite weared out after 4 laps of just punching them around the track. As we see a Condam coming out with a new set, going to be starting his flying lap in not too long. And FK Gaming on his way in, down in 7th. And here Vessel in the pits now on 3 laps old intermediates join his teammate Greshu on the 5th row of the grid. See a Greshu, quite interesting camera angle we're getting there, is now setting his 2nd or 3rd qualifying time. All the drivers really just not having to care about the tyre wear, just makes you see even more qualifying laps, and just them putting it out there as fast as possible. As we'll see here, Peter out doing a qualifying lap now. He will be put under pressure towards the end if he can't put in a good one now, because he doesn't really have the time to change anything on his setup, especially if he runs wide and gets his lap invalidated. He really has to put it out there now, or it's going to be rushed towards the end, which could mean him putting it in the wall, which would be less than ideal. But let's hope he can put it on now as he comes here in Sector 2 down into Cups, on his way down towards Mackinson Beckett. Let's see what his sector time will be. Coming up around 1 minute now. As we have to remember that the final sector is quite fast. But here Sector 2 time is 0.6 of the pole time. So let's see what he'll be able to produce if he can catch that up in the final sector, or where he'll filter out on the grid. He will have 5.5 minutes left of the session. Now coming into Vale. Let's see, and through Club there. Coming over the start finish straight. He goes into 7th. Joining his teammate there. As I think, yeah, that's Greshu going 3rd fastest with a 1:37.1. But still, Hitson on provisional pole, 91. He's the only one to get it into those 1:36 times. It'll be interesting to see if anyone could get themselves into those times before this qualifying session ends. Because with just under 5 minutes to go, they'll be choosing if they want to go into the pits and then take 2 or 3 laps on intermediates, or if they just want to carry on whatever they're doing now, because it'll be beginning to run down to that point where there's too little time to go into the pits and change for another set of tyres. You will see Hooper coming through the final corner just behind one of the Renaults, puts into 5th place. But I think that was probably Return, currently in 14th, trying to set a better qualifying lap, as there's some yellow flags in Sector 2. I don't see anyone off, so that was probably one of the other guys giving room. Now let's see what his Sector 1 time will be, if he can get it close to the top times. But no, it's half a second off the pole time, so that implies that it's at least in the 1:37th. It will at least look like it, but he can still catch it up if he keeps it clean and puts his foot down. As Heitinen has retired from the session, is that him crashing out? As we try and go on to a camera that shows Sector 3, or is that just him thinking that that he won't be able to produce anything, as that's Greshu getting the full wets out? Maybe that's implying that it's too wet and there is no point in carrying on with qualifying. Maybe that was what Hudson is trying to say with retiring at this time, as that's Cero putting it quite close to his best time. Oh, that's Letzero almost spinning it. Oh, in Sector 1, I think it's too wet for the intermediate tyres here with 2 minutes left. You can also see the sky is very dark and the rain is just plowing down on the drivers currently. And there's some yellow flags in Sector 1. That could be some of the drivers spinning round As we see Hooper go very slow, and all Sonny sliding round. Here coming into Vale. Oh no, sorry, coming through Club. Will he be able to do anything? No. Return has retired from the session. I think that this implies that it is too wet for intermediates, and that the drivers will just be looking to stop it here. But no, Gresham is actually going out for another qualifying lap on the full wets. As I saw, I think that was JSR leave the session. That might be some connection issues. Let's hope that it's nothing more than that. There's some yellow flags in Sector 3. That could be someone spinning, because as you see, it is very wet currently, with some standing water off the racing line very clearly. Let's see. As JSR joins back, it looks like it was just connection issues. As I think, yeah, that's El Sonny, or sorry, Skatey, in the wall in Sector 3. And I think El Sonny has retired as well, because he doesn't think that he will be able to put in a better time. But here, let's see. As we see Gresham come out, he'll be the first one to be putting in a lap on the full wets as he locks up into the entry of Vale. But I don't think we'll see the times improve due to it being so wet. As we see here, let Cero slide around, and Hooper retiring from the session. That's here Condam on the hanger straight, as Hassada's also retired. Let's see Gresham slowly going around, almost a second of Hitzenen's time in the first sector. It really doesn't look like the times are improving, as he almost has to do some opposite lock coming through Village there. We're coming down to Brooklands, trying it out on those wet tyres, as that could be someone that has crashed out. No, doesn't look like it. Looks like all the drivers is going around. What will Gresham be able to produce here in the Sector 2 with his times? As we see Condam went into the pits towards the end, and Kimis has come across the line. It will be interesting to see if Gresham can improve his time. What about Skate? He doesn't look like it. He goes into the pits to end the qualifying there. It looks like Gresham will be carrying on to see what he can do with that lap. Skate has also retired. But coming here into Sector 3, his sector times are looking very bad, as he slides off onto the grass and goes into the pits. So this will be your standings for the race here as we finish the qualifying session, as we're just waiting for the official lineup to come up so we can go through them. As here we have them in a very wet qualifying session. I believe that was, yeah, it's Hitzinen on pole position, then Hassad running off the front row, then Condam in third, Oson in fourth, Hoop in fifth, Elsoni in sixth, Skatey in seventh, Letzer in eighth, Kimis in ninth, and Peter running off the fifth row of the grid and running off the top 10. And then we have FK Gaming, Vessel, Ozone, and Return rounding off the grid. Now, before we head in to the race, here's a short message from our sponsors, Hype Energy. And welcome back from that to sunny Silverstone. Doesn't look like that the rain will be coming this race, as even though there is some puffy clouds over the track, but looks like it will keep dry for the race. So it'll be interesting to see what strategy the guys here will go with, as they of course don't have to start on the tyre they qualified on. But as we're here waiting for the drivers to load in, it will be interesting to look at the tyre strategy for this race. As you see here, the one stop is looking likely, with the driver starting on the soft tyres to go to around laps 7 to 9, and the driver starting on the mediums to go to around lap 16 to 18. But maybe we could see the hard tyre come into this if the drivers are daring enough to maybe start on them, or to go very aggressive at the start. As we here go on to the formation lap, as most of the drivers are starting on the soft tyres except for Elsoni, Skatey, Kimi's and Return. They're all starting on the medium tyres. So it's looking like a very standard one stop from the guys here. Maybe some of them will be going very aggressive with the soft tyres and then changing on to the hards to go far. But if there's a safety car maybe on the first lap, we could also see the drivers go on to the hard tyres. But in my opinion, I don't think that any of the drivers will be using the hard tyres, except for if there's a safety car at the very beginning. But we'll see the drivers here just weaving around, getting the temperature up, coming here around on the old start finish straight. You can hear the fans in the background. Really the home of motorsport, a thing you also can feel with the fans on the track. But Hooper here in 5th will be looking to make up position, as all the drivers will be, especially that Zero, who's starting down in 8th. Not happy to see his championship contender starting further up. He'll probably be going aggressive with his soft tyres here at the beginning of the race. Really looking to get them into the window with warmth here on the formation lap. But overall, the drivers here excited for the race, it seems, as they here come round to form up on the grid before the 5 red lights, as we make ready for the British Grand Prix in this AOR Season 17. As the leaders are lining up further down, they're also lining up. As we see, that's Return at the back lining up. As that's the 5 red lights coming on. It's 4, 3, 2, 1. And they're kept on for an absolute age. And it's lights out as Return gets a drive-through penalty for jump starting. It looks like Hazard got a bad start. Actually got quite a good start, as he's on the inside of Condom. Actually, Condom getting a great start. Then Hazard trying to go down the inside of him again as he dropped down quickly. As that's a Vessel round back there at the rear of the field. Interesting to see what happened there. But Hazard getting a bad start, almost overtaken by Condam into turn 1. As that's Condam trying to go around the outside, coming into Brooklands. As that's Hazard going off. Oh, as he almost touches with the Red Bull, going down to 6th place. He had an absolute dreadful start, but Condam making it up into 2nd place. Now he'll be hunting down Hitsonas. Lazzaro is in 5th place. Looking at this 3-way fight, as that's Hazard in 6th place, and that's Lazzaro getting under pressure from Skatey. Well, what will Skatey do? As I think that's Elsoni forming a beautiful little train going all the way down to 8th. But here the drivers will be eager to get past him, as they're all moving in a line. As there's some action further down, but that's Hazard going down the inside of Greshu for 5th place, trying to make up the positions, as Peter's gone down to 11th with FK Gaming. As that's Lazzaro going around the outside of Ozone, as that's Peter getting a 5-second stop, go for speeding in the pit lane. Dreadful start for him, and for Return, who got a drive-through penalty for jump starting. Excuse me for my voice there. But Hazard having a dreadful start, dropping from 2nd down to 5th. And FK Gaming moving up to 8th place here. Skatey down into 9th. With that, that's FK Gaming on its inside there. Oh, sorry, JSR, I believe. As that's JSR trying to overtake round the outside into Brooklands. As he's gotten quite some overspeed on Skatey there, but they go side by side into the field. As that's JSR. Oh, that's it. JSR gained the position as Greshu almost went off the track, but that's Kimmy's behind them under pressure from Skatey. Great start from all the guys here, keeping it relatively clean. There were a spin further down the field, but they kept it relatively clean with some great overtakes here on the first 2 laps. If that's continuing through this race, that'll be great. Let's see here, as some of the guys have had a great start here, jumping up quite a bit of positions. So that's the guys with the best starts. That's probably FK Gaming and JSR jumping up 4 positions. But let's take a look at this fight here, as that's Skatey going round Kimmy's back end. That's really hoping to overtake for the 1 point at the back there. Slow and overtaking attempt into Vale. Oh, Skatey just taps the back of him. Skatey will be trying to set up a move here on the coming laps, as they're both on the medium tyres, as the DRS has been enabled here on lap 3. Some of the drivers didn't have in qualifying, but they'll have now in the race. Skatey there just behind Kimmy's, trying to stay within DRS range, as I think Greshu, or sorry, that's FK Gain. No, I'm trying to find them. That's Greshu getting under pressure from JSR further up ahead of the road from Kimmy's and Skatey, and that's Kimmy's and Skatey going side by side, coming into Mackett and Beckett's. And Skatey just lifting off a slight bit just to avoid some collision. Now them going on to the Hanger Straight. Will we see some action into the field? Oh, sorry, Stove. That's the run down to Vale. As see Kimmy's go wide, I think that'll put him under pressure. As Skatey there's just behind, almost overtaking him as he went wide. But that's now Vessel coming from behind after changing his front wing. As we see at the front, the guys there also being close but not quite doing any attacking moves, as Hitzman put in the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. As that's Condom getting right up the back. Oh, as it looks like Peter's crashed in sector 3. Oh, as that, I think that's Hassad and El Sonny going side by side, coming down to the old start-finish straight towards Cops. I think that's El Sonny getting the position over Hassad, but let's see here in sector 3 when they come round. Any signs as Hassad and El Sonny are still fighting. They go side by side into Mackett's and Beckett's, and coming from behind, I think that's Let's Sarah joining in the fight. But El Sonny, also just cuts the corner there and gets overtaken by Lazzaro, getting a 3-second time penalty as well. Will Lazzaro, he goes round the outside into Stove, as looks like, I think that's Hassad pushing him wide a bit. Let's see, will we be able to see a stricken car somewhere, or was he good enough to retire in the pit lane as someone, as there's some yellow flags. Oh, that's Kimmy's and Skatey touching there and going onto the grass. Any of them has lost any front wing, so we're seeing some collisions here at the start. I don't see any front wing damage on Kimmy's or on Skatey's racer, but further up the track we have some action going on between Let's Sarah, FK Gaming and El Sonny, as well as Condam has overtaken Hudson for the lead, but Condam went wide into, I think that was Brooklands. As there, we also see some action at the front. Action everywhere currently. Hard to follow all of it. But El Sony overtaking FK Gaming and Lazzero. Now we'll have to keep an eye on the fight for second place as well. As further down, we also see Greshu going down the inside of JSR, at least attempting to, into, I think that was Cops. They're going flat out, coming into Mackett's and Beckett's. What will they be able to do down the Hanger Straight? I think Greshu is a bit too far back. But watching further up, FK Gaming looking to go round the outside into Stove, as they're still going side by side towards Vale. As that's, I think that, yeah, that's Lazzero dropping it into the pits here for the first pit stop of this race on the soft tyres there. He'll probably be going on to the medium tyres till the end of the race. But yeah, the drivers really showing us some great action for this Grand Prix start. As we see further down the field, the fight for the last point is still on between Kimis and Skatey, because they've been fighting all through the race. Oh, and Lazzero puts on the hard tyres to go to the end. Interesting strategy. He was maybe hoping for safety car, but it not coming to him. Or maybe the tyre wear was just more than he expected. And maybe he had tried out the hard tyres in practice. But Condam getting quite close to Hitson, at least was down the old start finish straight, as we see this great helicopter view coming down the Hanger Straight. Now Condam will be trying to set up a move on Hitson, coming into Stove, maybe into Vale. He'll be going forward, or maybe down the start finish straight, as he's right up the back of him, right towards the gearbox. He'll be trying hard not to hit him in any of the hard braking zones, where I think he's too far back to be overtaking down the start finish straight. He'll be maybe have to wait until the Hanger Straight. But interesting strategy choice from Lazzero to switch on to the hard tyres. He will definitely be going on to the end of the race. But FK Gaming gets a 3-second time penalty for getting too many warnings. He has maybe been cutting the track a bit too much, going a bit too wide. As we see Hitson changing around on the fuel mixtures, I would be guessing. But Condam still pushing Hitson on these 7 laps that's been driven now, as we'll be begin to seeing the soft tyre runners come in, possibly for medium tyres, or maybe doing as Lazzero going on to the hard tyres. It's also now the medium tyres doesn't hope for the safety car, because that will effectively give the soft runners a free pit stop, which would be quite bad for the medium tyre runners. As that's Condam pulling out to make the overtake on Hitson into Stove, as it looks like they were quite close to each other. As I switched to the wrong persons there, as that's Hooper joining the fight now, but Condam and Hitson going side by side onto the start finish straight. Condam getting the DRS out of that, as well as Hooper. So Hooper almost goes round the outside into the first corner. Now, as we see Condam pulling off there, as Hooper goes round the outside of Hitson, as he lost now almost 3 positions within the first 2 corners there. As Hooper and Hitson is going side by side. Hitson just getting the DRS and Hooper not getting it. But that doesn't stop Hooper still trying to fight him, as they now come on to the old start finish straight going through Woodcut. Will Hooper be able to hang on and maybe get the DRS on the Hanger Straight, or will this neutralize a bit at the front, as Condam pulled off a bit while Hooper and Hitson were fighting, but now Hitson is catching up to him again. This could be producing some great racing at the front, as Vettel now gets a 3-second time penalty. The driver's really pushing so hard to keep in the fights here. The field is so close that they just push themselves to go off the track, just pushing the limits a bit too much. But now Hitson closing up to Condam, and Hooper just staying within half a second of Hitson, which could be producing some great racing in this Grand Prix. As we see them go through the first couple of corners, excuse me there, as they're just forming a small train, which could maybe open up for Hazard, who had a dreadful start to this Grand Prix, and is hoping to maybe be able to join back up into the fight for the win here, as JSR has left the session. That could be some connection issues. We'll see further down now, that's going to be Greshu, Vessel, and those guys down there overtaking JSR because of them disconnecting. But Vessel quite close to his teammate of Greshu. Maybe he'll try and overtake into turn 1, as JSR has joined back into the session now. Unfortunate with the connection issues. Sorry, I was mistaken there. Maybe into Cops and now into Mackets and Beckett's, as the Vessel is quite close, just running a bit wide, coming through Beckett's and down to Chapel, not setting him up perfect for the run down to Stove. But it looks like these two will be keeping it fair at the front, as Vessel goes into the pits, as well as Hazard up in the front, as there's some yellow flags in sector 3. What could that be for? Think that could maybe be for JSR. No, who is maybe missing some front wing? So at least not Letzero or Kimis. Maybe someone further up ahead, maybe Greshu. No, it doesn't look like it. Hard to see why those yellow flags were in sector 3. But now looking at the fight for the lead, Hitson catching right up to Condam, and Hooper being right behind them. So this is going to be an absolute cracking fight if they can keep it like this. As the guys pitting has gone on to what looks like the medium tyres, which is the expected strategy choices. Hitson will maybe be looking to make a move in Mackets and Beckett, maybe going through Chapel or down the Hanger Straight. It's looking possible, more likely to go through Stove, as he gets a great run with the DRS, as well as Hooper from behind. Will Hooper also be able to overtake Condam here going into Stove? We saw Hitson go past before the braking zone begun, and Hooper now being right up behind Condam, and Condam going into the pits, maybe judging that his tyres were not the best at the current time. Now looking at this fight at the front, Hitson has a bit of a gap to Hooper, as there's some yellow flags in sector 2, as that's Letzero. Our championship leader is out of the race. Why could that be? Could that be him spinning? As we'll now be here with Heighton maybe going down the field to see in sector 2 somewhere. Maybe look before his car despawns. Here he will run ball with Kimis just to see if we can spot his car anywhere. Maybe he had some issues into Brooklands or Luffield. Or maybe it could be through Cops going a bit too fast and then putting it into the wall. But let's find out while riding on board. As further down the field, Hazard and Return is fighting for 9th and 10th place. Return on quite worn tyres, but now here looking out for Hitzland's car, not being able to spot it. But let's look down the field, as I think Return's tyres have fallen off the cliff. As now we see Hitler and Hooper going into the pits for their stop in this race. they'll probably be going on to the medium tyres, as we now see Elsoni inherit the lead in this Grand Prix. As where will they filter out compared to the other guys that was racing at the front? Where will they filter out compared to Condam? Look at him down in 8th place. Let's see, will they be down with him, or has the under or overcut worked for them as they come out in front? Actually, Hooper behind and Hitzler in front. So the undercut or overcut hasn't worked out for any of them. It's quite neutralizing, but we see now Condam right behind Hitzler, which will be for the net lead going into Brooklyn side by side. Now coming down into Liffield and Woodcut as Condam gets the net lead and goes up into currently 4th place. Now coming down towards Cops, will Hitzler be able to keep up with him, or will Condam just ride off into the sunset now? As it doesn't look like Hitzler has quite been able to get his tyres up to temperature. The same with Hooper, not really catching up to Hitzler a great bit, actually being caught up by Hazard behind. So it may look like the undercut having worked out quite a bit for the drivers, even though it didn't look like it from the start. But the guys that has pitted now has clearly more speed, as Kimis goes in to the pits, as now Condam sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. As we see here, Hooper trying to keep up with Hitzner, as this will be effectively for the net podium positions. Condam in the lead, then Hitzner, and then Hooper. So we're hoping for them to keep it clean towards the end, so we can have some great fighting and not them spinning each other out. But now Hooper being able to keep up with Hitzner, but it doesn't look like Hitzner is able to keep up with Condam, because Condam now has a 2-second gap up to Condam, or down to Hitzner, sorry, as it looks like there is 22 seconds for Condam up to Elsoni. So with the long pit lane here at Silverstone, it looks like Condam all the way down to Hooper will be getting the podium positions. Now just Condam looking up here ahead, just a bit in no man's land, but Hazard joining a fine train behind Hitzner and Hooper, maybe inviting FK Gaming into the mix whenever Return has pitted, if they get stuck behind Hitzner for long enough, because Hooper will be trying to make it past to make some positions up in the championship, as he would quite likely be falling down if he doesn't score any points. But now up ahead, Elsoni and Skatey not looking to pit yet, as the medium tyre runners are projected to pit around lap 14, which is on this lap, as it looks like FK Gaming has gotten past Return, which is in the grass. He's gone off the track, having some trouble to see where that is. Oh, as he gets a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Looks like that was at Woodcut, as there's a virtual safety car deployed, and that gives Elsoni practically a free pit stop. What about Skatey? Will he be pitting on this lap? Yes, he will. So these two guys at the front, Elsoni and Skatey, getting an effective free pit stop. So let's see if they can keep some of their positions, or if Condam, Hitzner and Hooper will overtake them, as well as Hazard. As we see El Sonny coming out of the pit, as well as Skatey just coming in there, as Condam at least overtakes Skatey. What about El Sonny? Yes, he does also overtake El Sonny, but Hittonen is in front, or sorry, behind El Sonny. So it has worked out a treat for El Sonny to start on the mediums, as he is now in second place with this strategy and this virtual safety car. And he is right up the back of Condam, and he's on the soft tires with Condam on the medium tires. So this will be interesting to see come the end which one of them has managed their tire wear best, as there's some yellow flags in sector 1. Why could that be? Someone maybe has gone off into the grass or something on the virtual safety car restart. Doesn't look like it, I at least couldn't find it, but Hooper right up the back of Hittonen. Hittonen really not being able to get those medium tires to work, as he's already a second behind El Sonny, really not being able to put his foot down while it mattered before the virtual safety car came out. Now Hooper, as we've returned to racing speed, having around half a second of gap up to Hittonen, as he could get past Hittonen, he'll be definitely trying to catch up to El Sonny in second place. But El Sonny also catching up to Condam in the lead, which could give a close fight towards the end. And further down the field, the guys being in a bit of no man's land, but up here at the front there's some great racing. All the way down to 5th, they're almost within a second. That's that El Sonny pulling to the left hand side, or sorry, right hand side. That was Condam going to the left to take the defending line. Now going into Le Field, they go side by side, then down to Woodcut and onto the old start finish straight, as that's El Sonny right at the back of Condam with the better tires there. Excuse me for my voice there, as that's El Sonny now will be trying to set up a move on the hanger straight with the DRS, or maybe into Stove. But El Sonny really capitalizing off the virtual safety car to be able to go in to the pits for the medium tires. That's now El Sonny goes down the inside of Condam, going through Stove, and it looks like he got the place going into Vale. That's now El Sonny into the lead, but Condam fights back into Vale, as it doesn't look like he'll just let him go. It's some cracking race here at the front, with Condam almost going around the outside into turn 1. Now here into Village, will Condam be able to overtake? It doesn't look like it, as they'll be going on to the Wellington straight now, as he just snaps the back end a bit, and it doesn't look like he has the speed to be able to keep up with El Sonny. Now with the DRS enabled, going through Brooklands into Le Field, will he be able to keep up? As we see further down the field, Greshu getting quite close to Hooper, and Skatey overtaking Vessel through Brooklands. So there's some great racing currently. And further up the field, we still have the guys fighting for the lead. But these guys have to remember that it's not over until the fat lady sings. So plenty of things can still happen in this race. They just have to keep it clean for now. As we see Hazard real close to Hooper still, as Hooper's just caught behind Hittonen that still isn't able to get his medium tires to work. Maybe now that he is behind Condam instead of El Sonny, because El Sonny is having some great pace, pulling off a bit from Condam, but not being able to get outside the DRS range. So this could also produce some good racing come the end. But for now it's this small train at the front, you could call it, where they're all separated by 7 seconds to the lead, or actually 3 seconds. I read that wrong there. So this could be great racing. We have to remember that further down the field the drivers are also very capable of racing. We see here Vessel, then now second of Skatey after he got overtaken, with Skatey being on the soft tyres, pitting during the virtual safety car. Didn't quite work out for him as he was 15 seconds behind El Sonny, I believe. But worked out great for El Sonny as he could take an effective free pit stop, as some would call it. So now that Vessel gets a 3-second time penalty. That now doesn't look very likely for him then to overtake Skatey, as I think he has accumulated 2 time penalties already. But now, as this race is stabilizing a bit, if we look over us, the clouds are beginning to come over Silverstone. So could this mean that there will be rain come the end of this Grand Prix? It's still sunny, but the clouds are coming in. But knowing F1, it will probably begin to rain after the race has ended. Maybe during the podium ceremony it will begin to spray down with rain. But who will be on the podium? That's the big question, as we see Condom now getting quite close to El Sonny, and Hooper staying within 1 second of Hitson, trying to get that final podium position. As Condom there really pushing hard now to catch up to El Sonny. Looking like El Sonny's tyres are not doing great currently. Now going through Mackett and Beckett, it's clear that El Sonny's tyres are not great. Now coming on to the hangar straight. Again, excuse me for my voice there. I'm suffering from a small cold currently. But down into Stove with the DRS on the hangar straight. Condam getting real close to El Sonny, but not being able to overtake him. Will he maybe be able to produce something when they come around to the Wellington straight, or even through the first 3 corners of Abbey Farm or Village? As it looks like he has fallen behind just a bit now, but he is still capable on the straight and through the corners to catch up and maybe overtake El Sonny for the lead. But this is a great opportunity for all the drivers who are battling at the front to catch up or even overtake Lazzero for the lead. And this is interesting because if you remember when I mentioned it at the beginning, Lazzero starting his 6-race DNF spree last season here, he is maybe looking to do that again with a DNF here. But let's hope that doesn't happen, as we would quite like to see the championship fight with Lazzero go all the way to the end. Let's hope this was just one small fluke from him, as that's Condam now going down the inside, doing that little fake to the left, then go down the inside, pushes El Sonny a bit off track, him going wide himself. They still go side by side into Vale. This is great racing from both of them, as it looks like Condam has gotten the lead off El Sonny, but El Sonny is looking to fight back, as we see Condam getting the DRS because he made the overtake after the detection point. But going down into Village, that's El Sonny going down the inside, and Condam trying now to defend, trying to find back into the loop and going through Aintree. It looks like Condam has gotten the position of El Sonny, and now El Sonny will have to try and fight that back. As there he goes down the inside, as he touches with Condam, and Condam spins. He's halfway round, and he goes down to 5th place, down to 6th now, as FK Gaming overtakes him. As that's some huge calamities happening at the front of this race. Going down into Brooklands, Just El Sonny being a bit too aggressive on the inside and then spinning Condam round. That will surely be taken up to the stewards after the race, as Condam must be absolutely furious about this. But now, down behind El Sonny, we see that I think that was Hazard trying to overtake Hooper, as he now tries again going into Vale. As he goes round the outside, that'll turn to the inside, coming into Club, but Hooper defends the position brilliantly from Hazard there, failing that now what is the final podium position. But that's now Hazard absolutely intrigued from this and will absolutely be trying to overtake Hooper for this podium position, and that's El Sonny then inheriting the lead. But if we see further down the field, we see still Greshu still being within that 1 second of his teammate, but it looks like they are maybe following some team orders or just playing the team game and not going to overtake each other to risk it. But we see Greshu getting real close, both on track and on the timings here as they go on to the national straight. As that'll be Greshu in ninth there, really trying to overtake his teammate. It looks like coming into Mackets and Beckett's. That could be interesting. Let's hope they don't collide and create some controversy within the Red Bull team. So now Hazard is real close to Hooper, still trying to fight for that final podium position. Coming down the start-finish straight as we get some great camera angles there. It looks like Hazard is falling off a bit through those corners. But here, through the first 3 corners, will he go down the inside into Village? No, he'll stay behind. What about on the hangar straight? Maybe through Aintree? No. Just keeps it flat out. But with the DRS open, will he be able to make the overtake into Brooklands? As Hooper has a little lock up, maybe that opens up for him to go for something into Cops or Max and Beckett's maybe. Or maybe he's trying to size up and move down the hangar straight and into Stove. Let's see. As down behind we see Greshu and Vessel going side by side through Luffield and down to Woodcut and down the National Straight. Into Cops, they go side by side. Let's hope they don't touch each other, as they gave each other plenty of room. As that's Vessel now defending his position from Greshu, staying in 8th place. As further up, Hazard has gone round the outside of Hooper into Stove, as I was imagining he would do with the DRS. So that's Hazard now inheriting the final podium position. But will Hooper try and fight back, as well as Greshu and Vessel in 8th and 9th place? As that's Greshu getting the position he was fighting for down in Cops and Max and Beckett's. But now onto the start-finish straight. Will Vessel be able to hang on, or will Greshu just be able to fly off into the sunset? As it looks like maybe Hitzner is getting close to El Sonny up front, and Hooper's still being close to Hazard, so this could also do some great racing here on the final 2 laps of this race. We see Hazard get the final podium position, something that he must be really grateful for, when he was hoping at the start of the season to be in this championship fight. He hasn't been there all the time, but now it looks like he'll be trying to fight back, especially now that Lazzera is out of the race. Now Hooper still within the half a second of Hazard, now with the DRS, trying to take it into Stowe as Hazard did on him. He isn't close enough. Maybe he will be able to do it on the next lap. As well as Vessel down here as they come into Max and Beckett's. It looks like that Gresham has been able to just build up a lead from Vessel. It doesn't look like that Vessel's tyres are good in this race anymore. And Hooper also on the fresher tyres compared to Hazard, as we now have 2 laps left of this race. Will Hooper be able to get the final podium position, or will Hazard keep it after making the overtake as they go down the hanger straight? Hooper with the DRS open, going all the way to the left side, then having to go to the right to see if he can go around the outside. He's not able to do so into Brooklyn, so not able to do anything into Luffield. Will he take it down the inside into Cops? Let's see, as Hitson was right up the back of El Sonny, not being able to overtake, but further down with Hooper in 4th. He's right up the chuff of Hazard. Let's see what he'll be able to do coming down the hanger straight, maybe with the DRS into Stove, as we've seen so many drivers do in this race. As he's real close, opens the DRS, he can't take it to the inside, so he goes to the outside. He's not quite close enough to do so, as El Sonny gets a 3-second time penalty. I think that will ruin his victory there, as Hazard locks up and Hooper tries to go down the inside. He's not able to do so, not able to just stick his nose far enough in there to get the acceleration down, but he's right up there now with the DRS open. Will he be able to take it into Village? It doesn't look like it. He stays behind but tries to do the switchback, coming here into the loop. Looks like he got stuck a bit in 4th gear trying to get the traction down. Up ahead, El Sonny had to do some defensive line, but that's Hooper trying to go down the inside of Hazard, not being able to here on the last lap of this British Grand Prix, as we'll be halfway through the season when this lap is over with. And I'll be looking like El Sonny in 1st place, maybe dropping down with penalties, I'm not quite sure. But will Hooper here in the final corners be able to take the final podium position? Let's see, as he is real close to Hazard going through Max and Beckett's, but losing with the dirty air. I don't think he'll be able to do it, but he opens up the DRS in the slipstream. El Sonny and Hudson is quite close up ahead as Hudson goes for the move. Oh, that was quite close. They may have touched, but Hooper also going for the move, not being able to take it. But going into Vale, no, he locks up, as this looks like a victory to El Sonny, but with penalties, Hitsonen gets the victory. Hazard gets 2nd place. Hooper gets 3rd. El Sonny gets 4th with penalties. Skatey in 5th. Condam in 6th after collision earlier on in the Grand Prix that maybe have robbed him to take part in the fight for the victory here. FK Gaming in 7th. Ozone in 8th. JSR in 9th. And let's wait until the full classification comes up so we can see with penalties put in. See, we have the podium. Hitsonen getting on top. Now Sonny not getting the podium because of his 3-second time penalty. That just shows how close this field is, especially at the top where they were fighting all race long. It was a great race to see the drivers racing through it. But let's see how the standings are with penalties put in, as we see Hitsonen in 1st, Hazard in 2nd, and Hooper rounding off the podium, as you just saw. Then we have El Sonny getting degraded down to 4th place with 6 seconds worth of penalties. Then we have Skatey in 5th, Condam in 6th. He must be absolutely furious after the contact he had earlier in the race. Then FK Gaming in 7th, Gresham in 8th, fighting with his teammate towards the end. Then Jason 9th, Vessel getting degraded down to 10th place with penalties rounding off the points there. We have Kimi's return and let Sarah the last person. Actually, no, sorry, Kimi's the last person to complete this race. Then we have return, let Sarah, and Peter, who unfortunately didn't make the end of this race. And what a race this was. We had some great fighting all through the race. We also had a bit of controversy. An absolutely climactic qualifying session with the drivers having to qualify in intermediates, turning into into full wet conditions towards the end. Now, I hope I can get James with me next week. So we will see you next time out. If I can just find the calendar. It's quite embarrassing forgetting which race is the next one on the calendar. But if we see here, I believe it may be Spa, but don't quote me on that. So I can just find the calendar right here. Looks like it is hiding in some of the threads here, not wanting to get out and show itself. But no, next time we'll see you in Germany next Sunday, hopefully with both me and James on the team. So see you next time.